The bigger they are, the harder they fall. But before they fall, they can sure scare the crap out of us. There's nothing quite like coming up against a ridiculously massive foe in a game, one that's far larger than you, and then actually trouncing it in battle. But these massive foes often feel like insurmountable obstacles simply thanks to their size. We've spoken about a few such video game bosses in past features, and here we're going to be talking about a few more. LICHDRAGON FORTISSAX Elden Ring. LICHDRAGON FORTISSAX, well, look at it. That thing's massive, and with that and a bunch of deadly attacks in its moveset, the dragon is one of the more formidable enemies you'll fight in the entire game. Storm King Demon's Souls. From Software has always had a liking for disproportionately large bosses, and even way back in 2009's Demon's Souls, there were plenty of those. The Storm King, for instance, is a gargantuan beast resembling a manta ray floating around in the sky. It's hard not to be intimidated when you first lay eyes on it. Thankfully, the boss fight itself is one of the easiest ones to cheese in the entire game, so once you get over how big the thing looks, it's not too much of a hassle to actually bring it down. Lady Dimitrescu, Resident Evil Village.
What the hell do...
You ungrateful, selfish wretch! You come into my house! You lay your filthy man hands on my daughters! And now you even try to steal my property! How dare you!
Lady Dimitrescu is already pretty damn big in her human form, or close to human at least, but that's not what we're talking about here, of course. As tall as she is, she's not that tall. No, here we're talking about her final form. Ethan squares off against the vampiric mutant on top of her castle, and towards the end of that fight, she takes on the shape of a frighteningly large dragon-like creature with wings and spikes and massive fangs and what have you. She's a sight to behold, to say the very least. Over G, Lost Planet 2. Lost Planet 2 might be one of the rougher games in this list, and its final boss fight against Over G isn't necessarily the best boss battle here. But if you're talking about sheer spectacle, it's hard not to give some credit here. Sure, you're essentially just shooting bullets at a massive bulbous monstrosity made of lava, but it's ridiculous just how big it is. At least on this front, the final boss raises the stakes in some truly interesting ways. If you want your games to end big, well, Lost Planet 2 certainly does that. Reapers. The Reapers are an ever-present threat, and though you actually don't engage in one-on-one battles with these giant mechanical aliens too many times, the few times you do face one up close, it's hard not to be intimidated by its towering structure. Whether it's the Reaper on Renok in Mass Effect 3, or even the human Reaper hybrid in Mass Effect 2, their imposing figures are quite daunting. King Titan Ark Survival Evolved. Given its very premise, it goes without saying that Ark Survival Evolved is a game that's brimming with gargantuan enemies and bosses for players to vanquish, but for those looking for the cream of the crop, King Titan shouldn't be missed. The final boss of the Extinction DLC, King Titan is a hulking, towering beast that easily outsizes pretty much every other creature in the game, and that's really saying something. The fight against King Titan is appropriately long, too. Something this big can't exactly be taken down with haste, can it? Perfect Dark Gaia, Sonic Unleashed. The ultimate form of Dark Gaia, Perfect Dark Gaia, might just be one of the most over-the-top things that Sonic as a franchise has ever done, which isn't lightly said because this is a series that often goes off the rails. We're not complaining in this particular case though, because simply put, Perfect Dark Gaia is a sight to behold. This is a ridiculously massive boss, and it's hard not to take joy in going up against something so big and bringing it down with speed and style. SLITHERFANG, Horizon Forbidden West. Horizon Zero Dawn and Horizon Forbidden West's worlds are crawling with gargantuan mechanical monstrosities that can trample all over you in a blink of an eye, but the snake-like SLITHERFANG is probably among the most intimidating foes in this series so far. Introduced in Forbidden West earlier this year, the SLITHERFANG matches its size with its surprisingly agility and vast and deadly array of attacks. Taking one of those down never gets boring. Riven of 1,000 Voices, Destiny 2. Destiny bosses have often had a reputation of being bullet sponges, but when they're as huge as Riven of 1,000 Voices, it does make sense that they're going to have an appropriately large pool of health as well. It helps, of course, that Riven serves as an excellent boss to cap off a solid raid, but even if you were just judging the boss on the basis of what it looked like, it would be hard not to be impressed by its proportions. EXCELSUS, Metal Gear Rising, Revengeance. Every time we've gone up against a Metal Gear in the Metal Gear series, we've been faced with overwhelming odds, and so too is the case when the player takes on Metal Gear EXCELSUS in Metal Gear Rising, Revengeance. Of course, Metal Gear has always excelled at crafting breathtakingly large-scale boss fights for its games, and the encounter against EXCELSUS doesn't disappoint either. The massive machine looks appropriately fearsome, and the player brings it down with all the flash that you'd expect. MALUS, Shadow of the Colossus. Honestly, we could have just named every single Colossus in Shadow of the Colossus and left it at that for this feature, but that's kind of the whole point of the game. For the sake of convenience, let's just stick with one here, and if we're sticking with one, it makes sense to go with the one that closes out the game. The 16th Colossus, perhaps more so than any other enemy in the game, captures the sense of scale that Shadow of the Colossus is known for absolutely perfectly. Like the 15 boss fights that precede it, it's hard not to marvel at the game's genius while you're in the thick of your encounter with the final Colossus. So what are your thoughts on this? Go ahead and share them in the comments below, and if you liked the video, please subscribe to the channel and enable all notifications by clicking the bell icon to get new video updates. We upload every day and would really appreciate your support. Thanks for watching.